Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Law. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Cassidy Fowler, and today I'm joined here with
Jenna Renzel and Jemay Jai.
All right, nice job, guys.
Yeah.
Woo! All right, so we're going to start off this show.
So for our listeners, we have all female
Yep.
students in the studio and all from South Fork,
All
right?
from South Fork,
Okay.
all in youth and government
All
as
right.
well.
All right.
So just a heads up for any of our listeners, if you'd like to call in at any time during this show, you can call in with the number 772-220-9788. Again,
Right.
that's 772-220-9788. We also have a YouTube live stream going on right now.
Yeah, and last week we were getting...
Last week we got a comment, and that I believe that was the first time it's
That
ever
was-
happened with
that
me,
was-
and I
yeah.
was quite shocked and pretty happy by that. So,
Yeah, that's cool. So if you're streaming the show live on...
yep,
on
our one
YouTube.
viewer right now, if you want to comment at any time, we will answer your questions.
Cool. Yeah, I have to turn my head around and read it, but we'll
Yep.
do it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to start off this show, by first talking about giving a little bit of an update on the Hong Kong protests. So if you're not aware of the current situation there, Hong Kong is practically controlled by China, and China is attempting to implement... Well, Hong Kong is attempting to implement a law where all people who are convicted of a crime will be extradited to China.
Right. Now they've withdrawn that law.
They have,
Yeah.
but that was the very start
That
of
was
the
that
riot.
was the impetus back in June, I think.
Yeah, I would say back in June. And it's been going on for a while. It has not died down. If anything, it has grown.
Right.
And the violence has increased.
Right. So they've increased their demands,
Mhm.
and it looks like it's going to be a long drawn out siege,
Yeah.
if you will.
Mhm.
But I guess it mostly takes place on the weekends.
I don't even know that. All that I know,
I'm thinking that.
I saw this headliner that said a student was shot, and this was the first
Yeah.
time that they have seen a true violent act like this.
Mostly it's rubber bullets and tear gas.
Yeah, but this time a student was shot in the shoulder. And now that this has only increased the anger from the protesters.
Right.
And we're seeing even more violent actions.
And they haven't, for the most part, the protesters have been not terribly violent.
Mhm.
They've been pretty peaceful. In fact, when they have the streets barricaded or blockaded, if there's a emergency vehicle like an ambulance or a fire truck that needs to get through there, they'll break down their barricades to allow the emergency vehicles to get through, which is, pretty cool as far as that goes. So they're just about what they're concerned about, and they really don't want to hurt others.
Mhm.
But it's getting increasingly more
violent.
difficult,
Yeah.
violent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially because he was just a student.
Yep.
Yeah, he was just a student. Yeah, there's students. There's all walks of life of people there. It's just amazing.
They just want change. And
Yeah.
we were talking about this before the show started, that this is kind of very, very similar, almost parallel to what was happening about how many years ago?
It was 1989.
Back in
I believe.
1989.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tiananmen Square.
Yes.
Yeah.
With riots, individuals fighting for rights. Well, at least in this case.
Right.
But
It was
for-
basically students back
Yeah.
in Tiananmen, and the whole notion was so China had opened themselves up a little bit to the West and in the educational system. So the students there had an opportunity to see the difference between the Communist Party and what some of the issues about democracy.
Yep.
And a lot of students says, well, we kind of like this democracy thing, and so they were protesting in Tiananmen Square, and the government shut that down with a tremendous loss of life.
And
So-
actually, Jamae shared a neat story before the show. Jamae, you'd
Yeah.
like to take that away?
All right. Yeah. My mom was actually a protester in Tiananmen Square, which I thought was pretty cool. She has a lot of stories from communist China, and
We should have her come in the studio.
Oh yeah,
I
we
was
should have her
thinking
call in. We
that.
could have her call in.
That would be cool.
I could give her a text, sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
some of the stories she told were really crazy. Like something that really stuck with me was like the moment she realized the difference between the life she was living with, and then almost like she got her sight back.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to describe it, but
Clarity of
she-
information.
yeah, realizing that there was something other than what she has witnessed
Mhm.
like in the world. And I think that was really crazy, just like being able to experience that and then
Mhm.
have it completely change,
Mhm.
you know. So
Oh yeah, so I'm just delighted that she was able to leave China, and
Make
and
her
you're
way
here.
here.
You're the prodigy of
Oh
her.
yeah.
So
crazy
that
how
is
things
great.
work.
That is great.
But it's just sad how we're seeing history kind of repeat itself and the
Yeah.
lack of liberty in so many countries. And when people finally
Well, look at the Uyghurs. I don't know if you've been following the Uyghurs in
I've
northern.
not, no.
Okay, so the Uyghurs are an ethnic minority,
Mhm.
and they are Muslim by their religious thing. So they've been going to re-education camps,
Mhm.
which means they're basically jailed. And there's about 1 million of these Uyghurs or so, and so basically they're told that the Chinese, they say they move a bunch of Chinese citizens there to live in amongst these Uyghurs,
Mhm.
and they're trying to acclimatize them to becoming more Chinese and less Uyghur.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And right, so or with the Communist Party's notion of what being Chinese is all about.
Mhm.
And it's really fascinating. So these people are told that they have to open up their house to these strangers to come and live with them.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. And if they don't, if they kind of not too sure that they want to do that, that's fine. You just go to a relocation camp.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I
So
can only imagine what that's like.
yeah, and it's not a good experience either way. They're really, that whole population is really under siege in a very, very weird sort of way.
Mhm.
But their religious freedoms are just not recognized at all, and there is no religious freedom in China.
Yeah, and there's so many. Wait, were you going to say something, Jenna?
I was just gonna say how it's horrible how the government's not listening to the protesters and trying to even change.
Well,
Mhm.
that's the thing. The Communist Party,
They have total control, and there's no
Yeah.
reason to listen
They're
because
not
of communism.
they're not a representative government, so
Mhm.
they just tell you the way it is, and
Yeah.
they make up the rules as they go along.
Mhm.
Living in
So-
America, it's like crazy to like it's hard to imagine what it would be like to live under a different government when you haven't
Mhm.
experienced it directly.
We can only read about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can only read
exactly.
about it. You can only like learn about it, and it's like how you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's so sad because most people there do not know what they are missing out because of
Right.
the lack of
Yeah.
information.
And they only know what they're told.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
They'll like ban certain texts
Mhm.
in like other countries,
Yeah.
so they can't publish
Like-
them, and so the
negatively
rest of
talk about the
world-
government.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even
Yeah.
like when I go to visit China, like nowadays, like last year, even like I don't think the government has any intention of changing this, but Google and YouTube and a ton of sites are banned, and like
Mhm.
Even, like,
internet-wise,
social media.
yeah, half of the social media, if not more, has been banned in China, and
Mhm.
they don't even know like things like Instagram and Snapchat exist because they just never had any sort of
Yeah, it's just WeChat, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I have that. That's
Yeah.
how I communicate with my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how, like, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to not have any idea of what the outside would be like.
Yeah. It would
Kinda
probably ignorance is bliss. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in their system, they decide what you should know,
mhm.
and if they think it's not important for you to know it, you'll never know it.
Mhm.
And it's kind of sad, really. So your basic human right, freedom
Mhm.
knowledge and education
Yep.
and growing as an
Totally
individual.
stripped from
There.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they only give you information to grow and develop your knowledge in a way that they see as fit.
Yeah.
So they're trying to create the perfect ideal citizen with the information that they give
Right.
the individuals.
They're trying to make themselves look so much better.
Yeah, everyone being uniform, because they probably think within the United States, we're such a diverse group of people. They probably think, wow, it's so chaotic. And here we're so uniformed with all of our individuals having the same ideal thoughts.
The way they see it, I know that a lot of my relatives see us as like rather like you said, chaotic,
Mhm.
almost unruly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like they're so used to being kind of shaped and molded by the
Yep.
government that they don't know how to live for themselves a lot of times, especially growing up in a completely communist country.
Right.
Like nowadays it's loosened a lot,
Just
but
because
it's
of the
still not
information
enough.
given out. Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah. So it's just a different way of life. That's for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. And I really like what one, I don't remember who exactly said it, but the fact of like clarity of information, which started these riots and
Mhm.
pretty much most riots within history. Just the fact that the source of this problem is the lack of information, and we're even seeing this within our own society,
Mhm.
and how information shapes our perception of what is
Right.
going on in our world.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just the lack of information, but the way that
It is
information passes
yeah,
through.
and how it's
It's
presented.
always changed, and the way it's presented is always biased.
Exactly.
And-
Yeah.
And that's why I think these platforms like YouTube,
Mhm.
where people can have their own channel for information,
Yeah.
and they're not filtered by executives from a board of directors representing a major broadcasting company. They can just tell their story,
Mhm.
and if you like the story they're telling, you'll tune in. And they have Patreon and other funding sources, so you can keep that channel on the air
Mhm.
Yeah.
if you like their programming. And one of the channels I'd recommend on this topic is called China Uncensored, and it's hosted by a gentleman by the name of Chris Chappell.
Mhm.
And it's an excellent YouTube channel. And he's been fully demonetized through YouTube.
Yep.
because YouTube is, I think, beholden to some extent to the Communist Party in China,
Mhm.
and the news that he puts out there is
Mhm.
not necessarily favorable,
Yeah.
and but it's the truth as he sees it through his
Mhm.
filter, and so he presents it, and so. But people do watch it. It's amazing how many hits he gets on his website,
Mhm.
and it's real. And he spent a lot of time in Hong Kong. He was just there this weekend,
Wow.
and I watched actually a live. He did a live
Stream. Yeah.
stream there, and it was like whoa! And watching the tear gas,
The chaos there.
And
Yeah.
the
We
chaos,
we
yeah.
truly don't understand. I feel like the news, even relating to the destruction in the Bahamas, the news really doesn't truly shed light on
No.
the true tragedies that are occurring.
right.
And instead they dedicate so much energy on temporary problems only for temporary periods of times,
Right.
rather than giving their not full attention, but giving more energy towards like
Things that we could really do
Yeah.
to do the right thing, the better things to better the human experience, right?
Mhm. Yeah, like even if you go onto Google News right now, seeing articles that are just practically pointless to your life as a whole, like seeing, well, we'll talk about this later. I don't want to diss one of our segments later in the show, but for example, like this Meghan Markle, wait, who is on the phone?
We've got John on the line.
Hello, John.
He wants to
Hi,
weigh in on
John.
this conversation. How you doing, John?
Well, actually, I want to change the subject.
Oh well.
Oh, we were on
Aw.
such a roll, John.
I know, but you only have an hour.
Well,
People want to, there's more exciting things happening in Washington, D.C. Last week when you all closed the show, I turned on the TV. First thing I seen was presidents saying the whistleblowers are like spies and traitors. And back in the good old days, they were executed.
Oh yeah, I heard.
What do you
about
think
that.
about that?
Hmm.
Like I've been saying to my friends, Trump acts like the godfather in the
Yeah.
mafia.
Right. Yeah, I know you shared that with us last week too.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, but so yeah, all right. So, but we're on another topic. But
Well, it's okay. We can get back
all
to
right,
it. Yeah.
all right. Sorry. So,
okay.
all right. So you want to answer John's question? Then
Can you
we'll
repeat
move.
the question one more time, just so that I
He
can?
wants-
Well, what do you think about somebody that thinks we ought to? He's insinuating whistleblowers should die.
I
You know,
think
they're like spies and traitors. They're not like spies and traitors. They love their country, and they're ratting out the president
I
because
understand what you
he
mean.
did a dastardly deed. You know,
See,
he's
All right,
you
all
know
right,
what he
John. You
did.
posed your question, so let's get their answer.
now I see what you mean. Like, the whistleblower was trying to do something correct for his country, and like, I just think that Trump was. We all know how he can be. The way he puts things are not the way that people want him to put
Yeah,
things.
he's not
but-
truly a politician. He is a businessman.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
really important. We haven't really seen that much in other presidents, and that's
And
important to know.
That is why he was elected, for his unfiltered opinion
Yep.
and his
Yeah.
ability to just say things without caring what other people think.
Mhm.
And him saying that, I honestly really don't think he wants this guy executed.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
genuinely. I think that it was just a
The-
thing called a hyperbole,
Yeah.
which is an exaggeration.
With this,
And the news took it out
Yeah.
of proportion.
Right.
the world is so sensitized nowadays and so politically correct that I think everyone, including the whistleblower and Trump, should be able to go and say whatever they want to. So I don't
Mhm.
think anyone. Do you know what I mean, John?
right. You know what he said. Another thing that blew my mind. He said last week, there has been no president in history in our country that has been treated so badly as I have.
I think that that is true. And I think the reason
Well,
behind
that's
that,
because he's no president.
No,
I
he
don't
is
I
the
don't
president.
think I don't think that that is the reason that he is no president. I think that the reason that he is getting more blame now is because we are more sensitive as a country, and also because of media. Media has put so much more grasp on our lives.
And how about
He
the
gives them
deep,
so much
how about the
ammunition.
deep state, though? You know, the people, the unaccountable people that are in government that are making decisions that they're unelected,
Hmm.
and yet they get to make decisions about how things are presented or
Yeah.
filtered. You know,
Mhm.
like the former director of the FBI. You
Well,
know,
aren't they under Trump? They're Trump's
well,
people.
but no, he was fired
He's
because he
fired,
was,
though, you know,
and the other guy was fired because they both lied.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
I see
Right.
what you're
Trump
saying, though,
doesn't
John.
lie. He can't open his mouth without lying.
Oh.
Yeah, we
Hyperbole.
can't cover the fact though of what he said.
Hmm.
He did do some bad things and say some stuff that he should have.
Right, but he
kept
released the
himself.
transcript,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then a lot of the Trump supporters say there's no there,
Yeah.
there's nothing
See-
there. The people that dislike Trump, like John does, are going to say things that that they're going to see the same script, and then they'll say, oh, this validates my opinion.
Yeah.
And people that don't agree with John read the same script and say there's nothing there. So it's just the filter or how we process this information is
Mhm.
different for
Yeah.
depending upon your
And
political
I
perspective.
think that it's important to know, and I really wanted to bring this up earlier and later in the show, that we need to truly develop an opinion. We have to see the information from both sides. You can't just
Yeah.
grasp
Yeah.
your ideals and your perception only based on one source.
Right.
That's what I was
Because,
gonna say.
yeah.
Most news articles tend to lean towards one
See,
side of the
One
argument.
perspective. Yeah.
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 I-
And it looks like the current press today, CNN, MSNBC,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and they really are the media wing of the Democratic Party.
Mhm.
You know, and
Of Fox.
that
Fox,
you've got ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, and they all have one political opinion. Okay, and you've got one outlier, you know, and that's more than anybody can tolerate. I just don't
Mhm.
agree with that. And freedom of information should flow both ways.
the way I see
So-
it is a
Am I
president.
still on?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, they're just saying the truth. They're not lying, are they, Frank?
they're telling the truth.
liberal-
I'm just saying my truth personally.
Right.
Yeah.
They're telling the truth as they see it or how they want the listeners to perceive it, because everything is parsed and given out in the way they want to create an opinion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that is without a doubt the fact.
The way
know.
I see it, a president.
Another quote from Trump
Okay.
last week. He said Nancy Pelosi is not the Speaker of the House anymore.
Well, yeah,
What does that mean?
more hyperbole. And what he was talking about is about the squad, the four congresswomen there.
Are they running things?
That was his inference. That's correct. Yes.
Another lie.
No, it's hyperbole.
It's a lie.
Okay, look it up in the dictionary, John. Hyperbole.
I have a question. What is him saying that actually going to do to impact our government? What is the actual importance behind that? And why would you delve?
Dwell on it.
Dwell on it exactly.
Yeah.
Why would I dwell on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's just crazy to say that. He's acting crazy. And
See-
you people don't want me to say that he's crazy. We're not supposed to name call, but what do you call it when he keeps on saying stupid things?
I think
See-
that everyone says stupid things, but Jamae, take it away.
The
All right.
president of
That's
the
the way it
United
went.
States doesn't.
John, I just don't think that a president should necessarily be agreeable. I think that the way he talks is him. That's just how he is, and that's why he was elected. So if you don't agree with the way he expresses himself, I think that
Hey, you know,
that's
he
his
can-
right to do that.
He can
Yeah.
go to China and visit with your relatives
Yeah,
over there
yeah,
and
when
check it out.
he,
Say
when
hi
he
to my mom.
talks,
Yeah. You can't strip a person of their individuality
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then we will result back to communism.
he's not filtering what he says. Like, he doesn't really think about the
If-
outcome.
If
So,
you would
like,
prefer
and that-
him filter and make it nice to hear,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a personal opinion, but that's not the way this country works.
And that would be concealing the truth.
yeah.
He's making fun of Obama. What? Obama lied. One lie.
Oh, you mean like
One lie.
if you like your doctor, you can
Yeah.
keep him? Yeah.
That's the only lie.
Oh.
8 years. The Washington Post says.
Oh, boy.
Well, you know, this is an
The
ever-ranging
Washington Post
conversation.
said, he
It's
just
fun,
did
though.
his
Yeah.
14,000th lie or gross exaggeration.
Right. All right. Well,
That's
you know.
Trump.
All right. Well,
Thanks, John.
yeah.
Okay, I'll close for now.
Opinions
All right.
expressed.
All right.
Thank you to get that. I got that off the track.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, John. We appreciate you checking in with us once again. And we'll be right back. So stick with us.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450.
Nice job, Jenna. All right. Little delayed, but it's okay. It's okay. We're back.
Yeah, we are back. We've got Bob on the line.
Hi, Bob.
WSTU, the Senator on the Confusion Corner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
So why'd you call in, Bob?
Oh, I was interested in your talk about Google and everything, and referring to China. It brought up some memories of mine.
Well, thank you for bringing
Sure.
us back to this topic.
yes. Well, we've
Oh,
got
no, okay.
we've got one of the students' moms going to call in and tell in about if we can, if not this week, maybe next week.
Maybe next week, yeah.
But we'll
Okay.
we want to chat about in depth about Tiananmen and what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Frank has some ties to China, too.
Yeah.
Or tied. Married.
A marital tie. Yes.
I'm like, oh, no.
No, but on Google, there's been some problems lately. They're talking about Google is more than happy to suppress freedom of speech and do whatever that the
Yeah.
Chinese government wants them to do. But when it comes to
That's about
Google in this country, they filter out conservative conversation
right.
and dump it or put it into there's a little box that Twitter also has where if you're conservative and you're getting popular, they put you in this. You think you're talking to everybody, you're just talking to a few people.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, I could actually talk with Trump at 3 a.m. sometimes, which is a hoot. But as far as our personal conversation getting out, forget about it. That wasn't going to happen. Now Trump, Elizabeth Warren said yesterday, wasn't it, that she wants to get Twitter to drop Trump.
Oh yeah. No, that's been a meme for a while. Yeah, they've been talking about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So our freedom of speech in this country, we have a lot of problems. Facebook's been guilty of it, and Twitter, and now Google.
I believe that
Uh,
Instagram is really
yeah.
hopping on that.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely
With
an
with
issue.
Trump, like a lot of people say, his only real outlet, because, like, give you an example, they gave Media Matters or whoever calculates, they watch all the media, and they see how much time is given to each subject. Well, Hunter Biden got like minutes on or a couple hours on all the mainstream media networks, ABC. Frank mentioned the list. Trump and his transcript, which a lot of them didn't even release the real transcript, but they talked about the Adam Schiff version of it.
Right. Yeah.
That for hundreds of hours on all these networks.
And I've got a thought. I've got a
Biden
thought
got
about
nothing.
that. Yeah, and I've got a thought about that, Bob. My thinking is that was done deliberately for the media's consumption. That they would take this narrative that Schiff portrayed out there and run with it, as opposed to just relaying the real accurate story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sticking with the hard news. This is sexier. It's more information
Mm-hmm.
that gets more clicks.
Yeah, definitely more
bait clicks.
eye-grabbing. Yep.
Yeah,
And if you're only watching those networks like John, mostly, you're not going to know anything of it.
right,
Mhm.
right.
I think you truly
Yeah,
have
you
to
can-
find, maybe not relating exactly to politics, but for example, like global warming and just the entire environmental crisis.
Oh, honestly.
You
yeah.
truly have to find the statistics. You can't just read the title of the article
Right.
and formulate an opinion.
You have to make your own opinions rather than
Follow.
following somebody
Yep.
else's.
And that
you've
is
read.
the fault of so many people. Like,
Yeah.
I would say the majority of people in
We all follow.
our generation, at
Yeah,
least.
Right, right.
especially.
Yeah, and you
Mhm.
have somebody you follow. Well, we become lazy consumers of information. If you find your source that you're happy with,
Yeah, that you trust.
and
Mhm.
and then you just that's what you consume, and you don't realize there's a world of information out
Yeah,
there.
again, seeing that you have to look at things from two different perspectives, from a
Yeah.
bipartisan perspective first, then formulate your opinion.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
years ago, you could only get Fox News on one of the cable networks or one of the satellite networks. And then if you wanted, you had to pay extra for it. There's still, one of the ones that you can get online.
And the only reason why CNN is in all the airports is because that was a deal that they cut with the airport
Oh,
people.
really?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know that.
Yeah. That's the only reason why it's out there. But if you take that away, wow.
They say that's
Yeah.
all you get in Eastern Europe is
Yeah.
CNN in the airports.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's waiting for their flights, and they're eating it up,
Right.
and that's all
That's
they
their
pretty much
news.
have there.
Yeah.
It's
And,
crazy how so many people only see one side of like so many situations, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
they really don't bother to see the other side because one side could be so agreeable, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
not all truth is agreeable, and I think that's important to take
Yeah.
into
Mhm.
consideration.
And like the news will tell you what you want to hear instead of like what's actually going on, and they'll exaggerate it and like really feed into the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
It becomes entertainment.
It literally becomes
Yeah.
entertainment
Right.
rather than the facts.
Right.
this is why I push for school choice all the time.
yes.
I really want school choice. It's cheaper. It's
Wait,
better.
what
it's
exactly?
more
Wait, can you
independent.
repeat what that is? Like the definition of that?
School choice, not public school, NEA, which has turned into a not such a great union.
Oh, Common
uh,
Core. And
Like
It
Common
was
Core
when
and
it
such?
started.
Yeah.
No, not Common
Not-
Core. So what Bob's talking about is that you can, as a private individual, open
Mhm.
up your own school.
Okay.
And the state of Florida, for example,
Mhm.
they pay the schools by the head for every student that's there. Each school receives a certain amount of cash
Mhm.
to educate that student. All right. So
And
if
it's
you,
huge.
and the numbers are staggering, right? Because even though the United States is very low on the list of
Educational levels, yeah.
educational levels and performance,
Mhm.
very high on the list of the amount of money that's paid out.
Mhm.
There's a discrepancy, a dysfunction between the two numbers.
I think some of that is to do with like cultural
Some of
ideals
it,
and stuff.
but
But not the all of it. Yeah.
some of it has.
But
So what
but
Bob's
you could use
argument is,
that.
what Bob's argument is that it's because of the unionization of the
Mhm.
teachers union and because it's a government bureaucracy, and there's a lot of course, Bob would argue that there's probably a lot of liberals that are running these institutions
Mhm.
too.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
they have their own, maybe wittingly or unwittingly, they have their own notion of how you should be educated.
Mhm.
So if you're a private school and you could have access to the same amount of money that the public schools get, and you would make your school available and they can get enrollment, and as long
Mhm.
as you're accredited, why not? And that's what school choice is. So
You would actually get it like a coupon. Like you could pick the school you want to use.
the money
Yeah.
follows you,
Mhm.
right? So that's what
Because
school
right
choice
now,
is.
some of the highest ones, like Los Angeles, New York City, they spend the most, and they have terrible literacy, math,
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
Give me an example. Obama was for it in his first term in D.C. area. I don't know how he went over to local D.C. government, but he was for it. They had like lotteries. Oh, minorities, everybody, poor people, they were lined up to get these lotto numbers to get their kids into these private schools. Well, as soon as he won the second term and he thought Hillary was coming after him, he got rid of it. He didn't really want it in the first term.
Mhm.
But since once he knew, like he told Putin's president Medvedev,
Yeah.
hey, I'll have more options in my second term. I'm going to win. So
Yeah.
that's the way that went. That went out the door as soon as he knew he had got his second term, because they want people staying with the NEA and public school system.
Mhm.
I'm really curious about how much of this money that these schools are getting are actually going to the education, because honestly, if it's as much as they say, our education system should not be this
Dysfunctional.
dysfunctional.
it
Would be
is.
the only way I could
Yeah.
describe it,
Yeah.
because it's
Well, I
almost
admire
embarrassing.
Martin County school system over St. Lucie.
See,
Heads
Yeah.
and tails.
Martin County
That is
school
true.
system
for
is
the
very
most
good
part,
Yes.
compared to
other
others,
counties.
it's
Yeah.
much better. But at the same time, it's
It could be a lot better.
yeah.
I mean, one of the
Yeah.
things that and I'm just a taxpayer consumer
Mhm.
myself, right? So the schools decided they were going to build a new building. I forget, it was a new office or a new school that they wanted to construct.
Mhm.
And I think maybe it's an elementary school. They said, okay, it's needed. Okay, fine. I've been involved in construction as a retailer, for a good
Yeah.
part of my adult life.
Mhm.
So I know that when you make a blueprint for a building, somebody keeps a copy of that blueprint somewhere. Why you have to spend $2 million for a new blueprint?
Yeah.
I have
that's
a hard
little
time
absurd.
wrapping my head
Mhm.
around that.
Well, tell them about the Capitol Visitor Center that dingy Harry Reid wanted, because he said the tourists stunk when they came into the Capitol. So they built this Capitol Visitor Center right next to the Capitol, naturally. But that was air conditioned, so they weren't waiting out in the sun in the summer for hours and come in and smell it to Harry Reid, I guess. And the thing went over budget like 10 times or 5 times, whatever the hell it was. It was way over budget. This is right next to the Capitol. If you can't control the budget right next door and take a walk next door, guys, now and then, how are you spending your money all over the country?
Mm-hmm.
How are you keeping an eye on it? You couldn't even do the Capitol Visitor Center on time and on budget. You had to go 5, 10, 8 times over. It's sad. They say 3/4 of every dollar that is sent to D.C. is lost to 10 people doing one person's job. Re-election funds, basically pork to get re-elected in districts. It's just lost. It's given special contracts to family members,
Right.
To build these things, and
family members that sit on boards of directors on companies they have no knowledge how to run.
Imagine 75 cents every dollar we send to DC is either lost to over administration, corruption. It's sad. I mean, think about the 75 cents, what we could be doing for everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The states need to keep more of their own damn money. I think we go to this all the time. I think the federal government should be about military, borders, national defense, like our founders intended it to be.
Limited government is what you're saying. Yes. More power to the people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the functional states send all their money to DC, and there it goes and gets lost. And then if you want some of that 25 cents back, you got to promise to vote their way. You got to promise. DC is a mess.
Well, one of the things that's interesting, I heard a conversation earlier today, and it goes back to the change that was made in the election of senators. And that used to be that each state used to present the senators to the U.S. Senate, and that was the governor would select that. And it wasn't until recent years that became a more of a political, political in the sense of an open election, and it changed the whole dynamic of how the Senate works. So
I think
kind of an interesting thing.
We surely need like a 2-term limit.
For the Senate?
For everybody, it's going there.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, because I mean, the House of Representatives, it's only a 2-year term.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but you can go again.
Oh, so you step out and then step back in later?
Well, you can, right?
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Why not? All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's like moving chairs on the deck of a ship. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Taking
Senators, how
turns.
many years these senators
God.
have been in there?
Yeah,
It's pathetic.
Yeah, they started right out of school and then they retire. Sounds like
Well,
a plan.
Pelosi was Speaker of the House a while back. Now she's Speaker again. I guess you can keep going back there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Bob.
Bye,
Appreciate
Bob.
Take care now.
All righty. We'll be right back, so stick with us. We have much more to cover.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450.
Nice job, Jamay. All right.
All right.
All right. So we wanted to talk more about China, since that has really been the center of our topic today, and lack of
It's front
freedom.
and center in the news.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's front and center in the news, as it always is. So a topic that we talked about many shows back was the idea that China is attempting to implement by 2020 a system, like a social rating system that ranks individuals on a scale, and if they based on their actions, whether it's good or bad. Who do we have on the line?
I
Let's
think it's
see.
my mom.
All right. Hello. Oh,
Good afternoon.
Hi, Mom.
hello.
Thank you for calling.
Oh, glad to.
So we were before you called. We were talking earlier in an earlier segment about Tiananmen Square, and your daughter was saying that you were a eyewitness to what was going on at Tiananmen Square. So maybe you can share some of your thoughts with our listeners.
Oh, sure, definitely. But basically, I'm not exactly on that on the Tiananmen Square, but I'm far from there, and I know the students. They are very determined, and I'm really. It's very emotional, think about what
Sure.
happened back
Mhm.
then.
Yes.
And feel sad back then what the government did for those children.
Can you tell us about how the students felt and like what really drove them to go do what they did for their country and the sake of their people?
Yeah, they are very dedicated to China, and it's terrible. I just feel sad.
Yeah, it was a very hard
in their
time.
lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what year was that? Was that 1989? Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, sorry, I don't exactly remember which year, but I
Mhm.
know it's June 4th.
Oh, June 4th.
Yeah. Even now, mention this that day.
Yeah.
How did life differ in China from in the United States,
what
from
was
like a
it like?
personal view?
It's a huge difference,
Mhm.
and I'm very lucky and appreciate and American accept me, and I really enjoy life here.
Mhm.
Back in where I came from, it's run by communists.
What was it like
And-
growing up there?
Growing up, we were very poor, and each month how much we can eat, or like how much sugar we allowed,
Mhm.
how much salt, and like meat.
So you couldn't just
Everything.
go and buy what
Everything.
you needed. You had to. It's all
yeah,
rationed.
It's all controlled,
Mhm.
structured by Communist Party.
Yeah,
Wow.
the CCP,
And-
right?
We do not have freedom.
Mhm.
That's a very interesting view to see both.
Like a personal
Yeah.
viewpoint of that, yeah. Because everyone that has not experienced what it is, the restrictions truly in China, do not understand
Yeah,
the
they're
true.
unaware.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand when you haven't been through it
Mhm.
personally.
When we take our freedoms for granted.
Yeah, for sure. Now,
Yeah,
what,
yeah. Mhm.
what was it like? Like when did you first realize that communism wasn't like worldwide? Like, what was it like when you realized that there were like other systems of government?
Okay, back then we were. isolated, insulated
Mm-hmm. Yep.
from outside China. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
All we know is communist is best way to go,
Mhm.
and we're living like on the top world, the good life,
Mm-hmm.
and American is living in a very poor situation. Not enough food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So we get food to eat, even it's limited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they kind of tell
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, they
And,
manipulate the truth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think until Chairman Mao passed away, and so China opened some, and we all wake up. We know it's not a way. The Americans they are not poor, and we are like 50 years or 100 years behind America.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the past 40
Yeah.
years has been just an amazing in certain areas in China, not all the rural areas, but the urban areas. Some areas have done amazingly well in the last 40 years with the growth of the country of China.
Mhm.
Yes, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And a couple of days ago is China's National Day,
Yes.
and I watched a part of the
Yes.
the ceremony.
We watched
Mhm.
that too. Yes.
Wow.
Amazing. And my wife loves the fireworks.
Yeah. I couldn't believe my eyes. Wow, this is China.
Yeah.
It's back then it's very different.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they developed and some high technology like the bullet train,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also the what's the bridge between Macau, Hong Kong,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
ocean of water,
Yeah.
miles
Oh,
long.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the spots is in Hunan province.
Yes.
It's called Zhangjiajie. I was there as a tourist. We have climbed the mountain. Back then, there's no bridge, there's no road. You can drive up to the peak,
Yeah.
and between the peak, it's a very narrow bridge. You walk, and there's no rail on both sides.
That's pretty
Wow,
cool,
that's
Mom.
Crazy.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
All right. Well,
So-
this is pretty much the end of our show. We
Yeah.
really appreciate you calling in and
Thanks for
sharing your
calling,
views to really
Mom.
It was
enlighten
very
our
interesting.
to
Thank you so
enlighten
much.
our listeners on the true tragedies it was back when there was no freedom.
Yes. Yeah.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yep. All right.
Alrighty.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, and we'll be back again here next week.
this same time,
Same time, same station.
same
So,
people, maybe.
Yes. Please tune in, and we'll look forward to visiting with you with much more right here on Treasure Coast Forum. Thanks again.